bit. Ed Henry is joining us right now from D.C. Ed Henry, how you doing, buddy?
Good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Very active up there. And well, first of all, we've got this situation regarding the bill, the bill that supposedly is going to keep government in operation. And we have the Freedom Caucus basically saying, what about this bill do you think we approve of because it funds Planned Parenthood, sanctuary cities? What's going on up there?
Well, one thing that's going on is I think the president, to some extent, has been distracted a bit by, the Mueller investigation and other matters, to the point that, yes, is he keeping the government open, which is a key priority? Is he getting other priorities like more military spending? Absolutely. But he's allowing the Democrats to get all kinds of priorities, sharp increases in domestic spending in this bill, and not ending funding for sanctuary cities as promised, as you say. It's kind of murky. There's some funding for the wall, but they're not really going to start construction on the wall, so it's sort of more IOUs and promises. Look, I think his back is against the wall in terms of keeping the government open, as you say, so he's going to give in somewhat, but I think there's definitely a feeling among, say, Mark Meadows, who runs the Freedom Caucus. He put out a statement saying, I don't see anything in this bill that the people who voted for Trump, can hold on to. So I think this might be a wake-up call to say, all right, going to keep the government open, got some of what he wanted, a lot of other things he didn't want. Now it's time to really bear down and get to work on say, immigration, infrastructure, some of his big priorities, and doing them in a way that's a lot more amenable to the people who put him into office.
What is this Schumer tunnel thing?
Well, I think a lot of people are trying to get their hands on it. I think there's some legitimate needs to kind of rebuild this tunnel between New Jersey and New York that services the Northeast Corridor, something I use a lot when I'm taking Amtrak between Washington and D.C., but I think there's obviously a fear that taxpayers in Missouri and a lot of other states are going to pick up the tab for what might become a massive tunnel, rail, infrastructure project. Again, I think there's some legitimacy to the project, but right now there are some cost estimates in the billions that are high that might turn out actually being low, once you get it started. And so what I think is another frustration that people in the Freedom Caucus are going to have is that they're going to get a down payment on this tunnel project, I suppose, in this bill. Not major construction on it, per se. But what I think the president really is going to have to figure out is if Schumer's going to get the money for that, he's going to have to get more of his priorities in the days ahead, the president. If you're going to, we heard this in the campaign, the art of the deal, right? And I think some of the negotiating is going to have to be less of Schumer's priorities and more of the president's priorities. And I think that's what Mark Meadows of the Freedom Caucus is saying. Where are his priorities?
I don't know. If it makes Ed Henry's life easier, I think I can.
It's called a better deal.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Exactly. See, I wanted to be honest, and I didn't want anyone to come back to you in a couple of days and say, "Hey, I think he takes the train, and maybe that project would help him." No, I mean, look, I'll tell you, trains are delayed. I don't want to say constantly, but there's all kinds of rail work being done right now, and look, there are. It's a densely populated area around New Jersey and New York, of course. So you've got rail lines that are bringing people on New Jersey Transit from New Jersey into Manhattan every day. Do people in Missouri care about that? Well, probably not. But, obviously, when you talk about, let's say, Amtrak, right, the money that Amtrak makes on the Northeast Corridor ends up subsidizing some of the train rides that they make less money on in Missouri and Iowa and other places. And I think, look, in all seriousness, when you talk about these big infrastructure bills, there's going to be billions and billions, maybe trillions of dollars spent if they ever come to a deal.
Yeah.
Taking care of, say, LaGuardia Airport, O'Hare Airport, if you don't do that, you're sitting in St. Louis trying to catch a flight.
Right.
And you're like, why didn't I get it? Well, it's because LaGuardia is such a mess right now that they end up canceling flights. So there's an impact, obviously, that is my point, I guess, that goes beyond New York and New Jersey. But you can't just make sure that Schumer gets billions of dollars and the rest of the country is left holding the bag.
Yeah, that's the big problem because right now it's the Schumer tunnel, not the Ed Henry tunnel. And
yeah,
and that's going to drive people nuts.
If they want to name it after me, I think I'll get behind it.
Yeah,
but,
well, and people would.
The Chuck Schumer.
Right. All right, so the McCabe deal, how is this going to flesh out? I mean, it's interesting how the stories continue to be out there that Trump is going to fire Miller, and you've got all these politicians who are reacting to something that hasn't happened. For the life of me, I can't figure out why Jeff Flake has to come out and talk about impeachment when the president hasn't indicated at all that he's going to fire Miller.
Right. It's a complete distraction. The president hasn't indicated he's going to fire Mueller. You see Democrats fanning the flames, saying, we need to protect Mueller. He's going to fire him because he sent a couple of tweets. Maybe he shouldn't have sent those tweets. I'm not defending them. These guys are going to battle it out. But I think it is a case of Democrats fanning the flames and saying he's going to fire him. And then, you're right, people like Jeff Flake on the Republican side, quote unquote, because he's not always a Republican, end up falling into the trap and saying, "Hey, he's going to fire Mueller," or this and that. Again, getting back to my first point when you asked me about the omnibus, this big spending bill, the president is going to have to figure out a way to let the Mueller investigation play out, and he's insisting he's innocent. So in his mind, his hope would be that he'll be vindicated in the end. But again, I think there's so many of these distractions that all these other lawmakers jump on. Oh, he's going to fire this guy. No, he's trying to get accountability on, say, McCabe. Andrew McCabe, who was helping to run the FBI with the sainted James Comey, and it turns out maybe their tenure wasn't so sainted. Sure, he's going to have to spend some time on accountability. But I think there's just so many distractions here in the Beltway right now that the White House has to be careful not to be taking their eye off the ball, so that when an omnibus spending bill like this comes up, they end up getting their clock cleaned.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, listen, brother, hey, let's double back because we have mentioned 42 Faith. We talked to you about the book when it came out and everything else, but mentioned it when you're with us kind of in passing, saying it's still available. But now that we're entering into baseball season, people's eyes are on opening day. Double back on 42 Faith, the rest of the Jackie Robinson story. Again, what did you Well,
I just learned that Jackie Robinson's faith in God became a secret ingredient in how he sustained all the pressure he faced, all of the discrimination. And it was something that he shared with Ranch Rickey, who had deep, deep ties there in Missouri, as you know, with the Browns, with the Cardinals. And so what I found at the end of all kinds of new information I found in Jackie's personal papers at the Library of Congress that people had not really gone through, I found that he and Ranch Rickey, didn't have it very much in common. Black man, white man, different generations, came from different parts of the country. But they both had a deep love of faith in God, that bond, but also a love of this game of baseball that I know you and I share. So I'm going to get you a couple more signed copies so that you can maybe give them away to the listeners next week.
That sounds good.
Close to opening day.
Well, great, man. I mean, really, honestly, it's a great book, and it's just a great topic, and just kind of mixes all the great things about this country and our people together and our history. So congrats on that, and we'll look forward to that. But we'll just encourage people to continue to encourage people to pick it up, 42 Faith, the rest of the Jackie Robinson story.
You sell enough of them, and I think we're going to have to name an airport or something. So I'm going to talk to Schumer.
All right, buddy. Listen, Ed, great talking to you, but I appreciate it very much. Have a great rest of your week.
You too, buddy.
At Ed Henry on Twitter.